Mr. Speaker, a pleasant good afternoon to you and the honorable members of this House. Mr. Speaker, if that is the level of representation from Mr. Jai Prashad, the honorable member in Region 6, APNU AFC, you're in serious problems. Serious problems. And I don't mean to really hit you hard this afternoon, but just to let you know that you will see a slew of developmental works that will transform Region 6 this year, 2023, from this year, 2023 budget. Sometimes we must be truthful. Sometimes we must be truthful to ourselves and do not bring to this honorable House untruths. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to make my presentation to the debate on this year's budget, which was presented in this National Assembly by my colleague, the Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh, under the theme, Improving Lives Today, Building Prosperity for Tomorrow. From the outset, let me thank the Honorable Minister and his competent staff at the Ministry of Finance for their hard work and dedication towards ensuring that the process and delivery of the budget was smooth and successful. Budget 2023 comes at a time when Guyana is finally standing strong and firm on its 2 feet as a truly democratic and law-abiding nation after years of hardships and political unrest brought on by the APNU AFC administration. Of course, endured by the ordinary folk as a result of the policies, plans, greed, vileness, and political pettiness of the APNU AFC in this House and outside. Budget 2023 also comes to this August House when Guyana is still reeling from the consequences of the 2020 elections, which was almost snatched by members of that side of the House from the Guyanese people. Mr. Speaker, we have a presidential commission of inquiry going on at this time into the conduct of those elections. We will have the truth, and justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done in the courts too, where there are a barrage of charges facing members of this honorable House from the APNU AFC side. Guyanese and the world will never forget what the APNU AFC politicians and parliamentarians did to Guyana by taking it to its knees and making it hang its head in humiliation. Mr. Speaker, it was a dastardly and mischievous act trying to disregard the democratic process and steal a whole election from the Guyanese people. It was a watershed moment.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order.
Honorable member, please proceed with your point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Point of order 40. Let me just get it. I'm looking at clarification, sir.
On 40, section 4, I think it is.
40, 41, 4? No,
40.
no, sir.
But the particular standing order that you're going to stand on will require the honorable person on the floor to cede time to you to give clarification. And I'll have to ask the speaker on the floor if he would cede to you. Honorable Minister?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Mr.
Thank
Speaker, because the matter concerning the
Honorable,
election is
go ahead, Honorable
not
Minister.
to be mentioned in this house.
Honorable Minister,
It was, Mr. Speaker, it was a watershed moment when Guyana sworn its first rightful head of state and President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali and his cabinet defeating the dictatorship and autocratic style, the APNU AFC regime, displacing them and sending them packing. They were defeated then, and I'm confident that they will be defeated at the end of this debate and consideration of the estimates. My honorable friends in the opposition, you will be defeated again at the upcoming local government polls because God doesn't like ugliness. And there is nothing beautiful about being engaged in telling a different story or giving the public alternative peddling misinformation. Mr. Speaker, we on this side of the House will work hard night and day, as we are doing, to ensure that the riggers and the opposition parliamentarians warm those seats for an extremely long time. Mr. Speaker, Guyana was held hostage by the APNU AFC political culprits. I say never will they get close to power again. Mr. Speaker, before I get into the meat of my presentation today, I wish to state that this budget is well balanced, pro-poor and pro-development. It is for the working class population. The Federation of Independent Trade Unions, FITUG, the Guyana Agricultural Workers Union, GAU, have sent the recommendations of the PPPC 2023 budget. They have lauded the government prudent management of the economy as well as the measures included in this year's budget. I believe the GPSU, GTU, and GLU cannot bring themselves to grips with the resounding allocations that were contained in the merit salary adjustments in the disposable income of the many Guyanese. They will criticize the budget and they say that the workers should get more. Well, we also on this side of the House believe the workers deserve more. Even the public servants, in particular, they deserve more. But each measure in the budget is realistic and practical. The PPPC took all the measures and vast development that each and every worker would benefit from. And the PPPC government is 100% convinced that it did the right thing and offer the workers what we can afford. In any event, it is not the cost of living and inflation that workers are facing, but the unions will not put politics aside when they are ready to negotiate with the PPPC government. Mr. Speaker, negotiations must be based on evidence and facts, and not by mere emotions. They continue to give workers' union a bad name. Why were they not complaining when the APNU AFC administration did not honor the collective bargaining agreement process and impose wages on poor working class workers from 2015 to 2019? It is the private sector that drives the engine of growth in any society. I have statements of the budget being well received by the Georgetown Chambers of Commerce, the Chambers of Commerce of Berbice and Essequibo, the Guyana Private Sector Commission, and the Manufacturing and Services Association, among others. If you want the evidence, Mr. Speaker, I have them here. It is for the ordinary Guyanese, quoting from a news piece done by News Source Guyana, aired on Facebook on the 22nd of January 2023, where they interviewed persons about the budget. One vendor, a 36-year-old Vanessa Primo, also applauded the government and the measures and projects proposed in the budget. She said that the budget, in her opinion, is good because the pensioners, school children, and all the people get something. She's not alone. Many people who are right-thinking Guyanese have said that there is something for everyone in this year's 2023 budget. Mr. Speaker, why is the opposition saying they were left out of the consultation process? They chose to be left out. The Honorable Member Norton was busy fighting with the PNC, Granger, Geeta, Harman fraction to keep his job. He did not have the time, but now he comes to this National Assembly to cry foul. Mr. Speaker, I want to stop and ask the Senior Minister if he had received any written or oral submissions from any of the APNU AFC parliamentarians on this budget. I'm pretty sure I will receive a resounding no. Mr. Speaker, I do not trust the APNU AFC opposition. Something is amiss, just like how the APNU AFC suffered a bout of selective retention or had forgotten the $80 million signing bonus. When we found it, they came and said they were sorry. This 2023 budget, we can truly be proud of. It will definitely propel this country's growth and development to greater heights. It is historic because it is the largest budget that ever been presented in this parliament. This, the fourth budget in 3 years, is $781.9 billion of plans and policies that can only benefit the hard-working people of this country. Let us look at some of the plans and measures which will put more money and dollars directly into the pockets and hands of people. Mr. Speaker, we will establish a regional food hub to further our aim in achieving and advancing food security. There is also the use of science, research, and technology in the agriculture to advance the innovation capabilities in this respect. Hinterland agriculture will also be boosted. All of this will be accomplished with the $2 billion project for 2023, $4 billion for Gaisuko to further the revitalization of the industry. Mr. Speaker, 300 million will be injected in the industry to further research and development. 353 million is budgeted, Mr. Speaker, for high volume crops, spice, citrus, fruits production. I don't have to tell you, but I will, that the APNO AFC paid no attention whatsoever to the sugar industry and allowed agricultural areas to deteriorate and the workers had to fend for themselves. They did not support the growth and buoyancy of the sugar and rice sector. Do I have to remind you, Mr. Speaker, of what they did to sugar? They disrupted the whole industry that was sorting itself out and finding its feet in challenging circumstances. We will never neglect the sugar industry and its workers. Now, they want to put their failures and wrongdoings at our feet. Agro-processing, coconuts, livestock, fisheries, aquaculture, and corn, soybean, all this year getting major interjections of funds in Budget 2023, which will aid in the growth and development. Mr. Speaker, a total of $84.9 billion is budgeted for health sector improvements this year in the budget, with $1 billion going towards the retrofit and upgrade health centers and health posts across the country. This is significant because what APNO AFC did to our health centers and hospitals when they were in power, they left them starved of resources and barely surviving. Need to remind you, Mr. Speaker, that they stored drugs and pharmaceuticals in a two-story house on Sussex Street. 500 million is allocated towards training for medical and health sector professionals, Mr. Speaker. This budget is beneficial to our people and it's development driven. We are thinking about the future and beyond, not only today. I now turn to education. We are policy driven and work oriented. That is why our children are outperforming the region, and that is why we are achieving literacy and numeracy. Similarly, there is an increase in Because We Care cash grant, moving from $30,000 to $40,000 and benefiting more than 214,000 children across this country. Mr. Speaker, $4.7 billion is budgeted for Amerindians development programs and activities keeping our commitment to make the first people a priority. $2.7 billion is allocated to the Amerindian Development Fund, with another $5 billion going to repair the hinterland roads. This is what a government that cares does for its people. Not like APNO AFC, which had 1.5 ministers that were not in sync with the priorities of the people. The PPP will serve all the needs of our Amerindian brothers and sisters. Mr. Speaker, $5.6 billion will be spent on public security and keeping our country safe and secure. This is a realistic budget. This is a budget that makes sense. This budget is all about putting our people first. Budget 2023 features increases in disposable income of which 3 billion will be spent on salary adjustments to benefit 14,000 healthcare and discipline service employees. More money in the pockets of our people. Additionally, workers will benefit this year from an increase in the income tax threshold from $75,000 to $85,000. After all, this increase may look trivial and small, but it has a big impact on the workers who will benefit from the increases. Small but powerful. Mr. Speaker, this is how the PPP proposes to tackle poverty and income disparity by making deliberate and policy-driven interjections of financial resources in the sectors that matter. I've listened, Mr. Speaker, throughout this debate, and what I found was the honorable members of the opposition picking and choosing and trying to elaborate and fool the Guyanese people. But let me assure you that Budget 2023 is not about picking and choosing. It is not a buffet like what takes place downstairs. This is a budget to transform this country. Mr. Speaker, this budget is about compassion, love and understanding. Let them talk how this budget is not addressing the poverty situation in Guyana. I dare them to. Mr. Speaker, it is now time to turn my attention to my sector. Mr. Speaker, in 2020, the local government system, myself and my colleague, Minister Nigel Darmalal, inherited from the APNU AFC administration was in chaos and shambles. It suffered from a bout of lethargic energy practiced by some local democratic organs. Our government have been able to revitalize and streamline the sector, focusing on putting back in place a robust local government architecture and systems in place to support more sustainable communities. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to the Honorable Ganesh Mahipal, who came to this House with half-baked, inaccurate, and misleading stories of what happened in this sector. I do not want to say that the honorable member was lying through his teeth. So I will say that he has become a stranger to truth.
Your presence here is not part of it.
Mr. Speaker, the PPPC government has zero tolerance approach to skullduggery, corruption, malpractice, and illegality. If you are doing what you're supposed to do, then you don't have to fear or be intimidated by my colleague or myself. We are not like Mahipal, the honorable member, and the APNU AFC cabal that smiled and were in bed with illegality. No, we will continue to aggressively target the work of the ministry. Perhaps if UGSS had been harder with Ganesh Mahipal, the honorable member would not have misappropriated in excess of $800,000. And that is a fact. That is a fact. Mr. Speaker, as for the mayor of Georgetown, who was using the vendors and fanning the flames of racial and ethnic insecurity in front of Georgetown Hospital. Mr. Speaker, local government elections are budgeted for this year. These elections will see local government systems finally breathing. The PPPC government will win, and we will win handsomely too. Mr. Speaker, the APTO-AFC cabal should stop exciting the people with those tales and stories of perceived discrimination and racism. They should do what is good and wholesome. Stop your negativity and political opportunism. Mr. Speaker, local government and regional development sector has indeed grown in the past year. We are now prudently managing our affairs by promoting democracy and governance at the local and regional levels. We at the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development are not interested in the many scandals of the opposition members of Parliament or by the telephone recording in which Honorable Danish Mai Paul, Honorable Roysdale Ford seem to be plotting to overthrow the Honorable Member Norton. Recall the blank check fiasco? Those allegations or the story behind the blank checks were revealed in that conversation. We are interested in the improvement of our roads, bridges, health centers within the framework of our local government structure. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2023 was crafted and based on the underlying principle of infrastructure development being a key factor in stimulating growth and enhancing the quality of life for our people. Mr. Speaker, I wish not to lament any longer with the opposition parliamentarians, as old habits die hard. So they will continue to tell tales and concoct things about Guyana and the PPPC. Mr. Speaker, they will continue to ride the dirty politics bandwagon instead of practicing the politics of development. They will serve to criticize everything in the budget, but will offer no suggestions or recommendations for positive economic growth. Mr. Speaker, every time they give the public alternative facts, the PPPC government will set the record straight. We will fix all the falsities, just like we have to fix the country's woes with prudent economic and fiscal management. We are committed as a government to the idea of having safer communities and building our communities back to the point that they will be stronger than before. We will ensure Guyana has the local and regional governance structures that will work thereby creating a one Guyana. Mr. Speaker, this budget 2023, as the local put it, bad for days. Inherent in this budget are the winds of prosperity. Mr. Speaker, I wish to now commend this budget to the National Assembly for a safe passage. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Our next speaker Our next speaker is Honorable Member Richard Sinclair.